For the past 4 decades, if you were looking to buy the ultimate fast super saloon, you were looking at a BMW M5. What essentially started out as just a 5 Series with the engine from the BMW M1 has quickly morphed into a cult following for enthusiasts, and with every generation of M5, the company has essentially pushed the boundaries to make it faster, to make it more efficient, and to make it even techier. Now for 2025, we are seeing an all-new version of this iconic model, and as you can see, this week we are testing out the classic version. This is the M5 sedan, painted in this beautiful color called Frozen Deep Gray Pearl. And for the first time ever here in America, BMW is offering this model as a plug-in hybrid with a twin-turbo V8, and you can also finally get it as a wagon called the M5 Touring. So the big question I want to answer, for those of you who are looking for the ultimate fast saloon, has BMW managed to raise the bar even further with this new M5? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start talking about the all-new styling for this G90 generation of the M5, I thought I'd first start off by popping the hood and reminding you guys what's powering this thing, because as you guys know, the M in an M5 essentially stands for motor. And this is where BMW is pushing the envelope even further with the latest generation M5. They kind of had to, because they need to keep pace with all the other competitors from Audi, from Porsche, from Mercedes-AMG, of course. What you're gonna find here is the latest 4.4-liter gasoline direct injection twin turbocharged V8 that we've known and loved in the M5 since the last generation. It gets some tweaks this year, but it also gets a lot of assistance from an electric motor that is integrated between the engine and the 8-speed ZF Source automatic transmission. It also pulls its energy from a 14.8 kilowatt-hour battery pack. That's right, all M5s this year are now a plug-in hybrid, and the total output here is 717 horsepower. That's 100 more versus last year's competition model, and you get 738 pound-feet of torque. Around 577 horsepower is coming from the engine. The electric motor supplies around 194 horsepower, around 207 pound-feet of torque. 553 pound-feet of torque is on the gas side alone. Now, of course, all M5s come standard with the company's latest xDrive all-wheel drive system. It also gives you the ability to turn off the front axle, so you can actually make this thing rear-wheel drive at the touch of a button. BMW claims 0 to 60 for this model is 3.4 seconds, and with the driver's package that my test car has here, it'll reach a top speed of 190 miles an hour. Now, of course, it's a plug-in hybrid. You're probably wondering, what's the fuel economy like? Well, this is where the new M5, if you just look at it on paper, if you don't have it plugged in, is actually a lot less efficient, rated at 12 in the city and 17 on the highway. This thing's actually hit with a gas guzzler tax of around $2,600. However, if you keep some charge in the battery pack, BMW says it'll do around 50 mpge, which is kind of a number that they get by combining the efficiency of the electric motor and the gas engine. I was averaging around 30-ish when I had it with a full charge. BMW also says with that battery pack, you should be able to do around 27 miles of all-electric range, and with its 16-gallon fuel tank, around 280 miles of gas-only range, which honestly is not that much. We'll talk about that more later on during the driving scene. The other downfall with this engine being electrically assisted with that big battery pack is the M5 has gained a lot of weight, and that's kind of been the controversy for this new generation. As this car sits, it weighs in at just under 5,400 pounds. It has gained a whopping 1,100 pounds compared to the previous generation. However, it should be notated that an Audi RS7 Performance is around 5,200 pounds. An AMG GT63S 4-door is around 5,400 pounds, so it's really not that much heavier than most of its competitors. But again, if you're comparing it to the old M5, it has definitely gained a substantial amount of weight. But let's go ahead and close up the hood here and talk about the exterior styling. Now, first of all, this is based off of the new generation 5 Series. It's now in its 7th generation. But of course, BMW's M division has basically taken things up to the next level, twisting the, performance dial to 11, while also making the styling a lot more, aggressive and meaner. You can see this particular test car that I'm showing you is painted in deep frozen gray. It's an extra charged matte finish color. You have their standard iconic LED headlights, which have an adaptive feature. They also include LED daytime running lights, LED turn signals. You have sequential LED turn signals as well. You can see they kind of do that fade in and fade out, although it's not quite as sequential, but it's definitely an interesting design element. The other thing you also notice is the big twin kidney grills. They are illuminated. That's included if you guys go for the executive package. You get the illuminated grille. It definitely makes this thing look very distinctive at night. And I also appreciate how BMW was a little more restrained with the grille compared to a 4 Series at the front end. Although I definitely noticed this area here. This is a huge, massive air intake that allows air to go directly into the intercooler. I find this to be a little troubling because there's no kind of protection here. You could easily, hit something on the road, like a rock could fly in here and damage the intercooler or the radiator. So I'm a little surprised that there's no kind of mesh mesh here to kind of protect this. Your radar sensor is going to be here for the adaptive cruise control, and you also have a camera system here, although it kind of annoys my OCD how the camera is not here. It's off to the side. You have an M5 badge there to let everybody know you have the most aggressive M model. And then looking at the rest of the profile, you can see this car is low. It's also extremely wide. The vehicle itself is around 2.7 inches wider than the previous generation, so it's a lot bigger and taller as well. It's around 1.5 inches taller because BMW had to kind of raise up the floor to accommodate a battery pack if you guys go for the i5, the electric version of this car. And then if you look at the wheelbase, 118.3 with a 200.6 inch long overall length. So the M5 is a good 5 inches longer than the previous generation. That's kind of where this thing almost looks like a 7 Series. It's big, it's low, it's wide, and it's also a lot taller than the previous generation. Now looking at the wheels, these are actually the standard wheels. You get a 20-inch wheel at the front, a bigger 21-inch wheel at the back. This is a Hankook Ventus summer performance tire. It's a 285 width tire in the front, an even fatter 295 at the back. Remember, this is a all-wheel drive car, but it's going to have more of a rear drive bias. The car also comes with active rear wheel steering, adaptive suspension, of course, and these tires. I have to say, surprisingly, I actually think the offset here, I wanted the wheels to be pushed out a little bit more, but it definitely has a pretty nice stance. You can get 2 optional wheels. These are the included wheels that you get on the M5. Now here's the charge port door in case you guys are wondering. It has a 7.4 kilowatt onboard charger. It uses the J1772. And it takes around 4 hours to charge this thing on a level 2. So it's actually a pretty fast charger when you guys have it plugged into your home outlet, which is a level 2 if you have that. Now, my test car also has the carbon package. It includes these carbon fiber mirrors, which are power folding. They have integrated turn signals, cameras throughout. I love the M mirrors here where it has this kind of aerodynamic floating portion at the top. And then if you look at the roof, you can see that carbon package for an extra $3,000 also includes a carbon fiber roof, which helps lower the center of gravity, helps to straighten the overall structure, although it does get rid of the sunroof. I prefer having a sunroof there, so that's something that you have to kind of deal with if you want the carbon package. And then looking at the rear of the vehicle, you can see the design certainly looks really aggressive. I love how understated it is, but I also love how it is instantly recognizable as a performance sedan. The carbon package includes the carbon fiber rear deck lid spoiler, which looks good with this kind of matte gray paint. You have a blacked out M5 badge here. You have these really slim looking full LED taillights, which have I got fade in and fade out for the turn signals as well. And you can see the rear diffuser is very chunky. It's got kind of a similar designed lip as the front coming over to the rear, along with these massive quad exhaust pipes. And that quad exhaust pipe is kind of a signature look with the M5. And thankfully this thing still has a V8, so let's go ahead and fire it up. You guys can hear how it sounds real quick. And unlike Mercedes-AMG, which has been dumping the V8 for 4 cylinders and 6 cylinders, I appreciate how BMW keeps a V8 in the M5. Now looking at the cargo area, again, BMW is going to offer this car as a sedan and as a wagon for the first time. But if you go for the sedan, you get around 16.5 cubic feet of storage space. 16.5 is actually a pretty usable amount. You can see there are hinges that kind of impede on the cargo area here, but they've kind of got this little cutout for it. The seats do fold down and looks like a 40-20-40 manner, which is definitely nice. This is the included mobile charger that the car comes with from the factory, where you can kind of plug in into your a regular household outlet. And it looks like this little cargo floor doesn't actually lift up. So that's kind of the thing, is the M5's battery pack kind of takes up a little bit of space in the cargo floor, which eats up around a cubic foot and a half to compared to the standard M5. Keep in mind, if you guys want more space, the wagon offers around 18 cubic feet, which expands to around 50 cubic feet when you have those rear seats folded. So for me personally, I would go for the wagon. Now moving on to the interior of the new BMW M5. First of all, I love this color combination with the frozen deep gray with this kind of red perforated leather interior. It's kind of got like a red two-tone interior. This is the merino leather, so it's their upgraded leather. This is real leather. It's not that veganza that I showed you guys in an i5, which is their fake leather. You can see the seats are very unique to the M5. They're really aggressively bolstered. They adjust in 16 different ways. I love how there's an illuminated M5 badge in the front seat backs. These headrests actually do adjust up and down. And you have these seats which are heated and ventilated as well. That's included if you guys go for the executive package. The one thing this car, however, is missing is massaging seats. I actually was kind of hoping it would have massaging seats, but for some reason it's not available, at least here in the US, as an option, at least for now. But getting inside, this vehicle has that typical low sedan step-in height. But once you get inside, these seats, I have to say, are so comfortable. I mean, for a car that has really aggressively bolstered seats, I fit into these seats perfectly, and they just kind of coddle you. At the same time, you can also adjust these bolsters to make them a little bit more hugging if you guys want it to hug you a little bit more or kind of release you a little bit more. As I get in and shut the door has a really solid sounding thunk. Sadly, however, this car does not have a soft close feature. That's something that you can get on some competitors. So it's kind of showing that BMW has kind of left a few upscale options off the table to kind of keep the price a little bit lower than some of its rivals. Now, once you get inside, let me show you guys the key fob for the vehicle. This car does come, of course, with BMW's latest intelligent access key. It has the M colors there, of course, to let you know you have something special, although there's no kind of M5 badge on the key itself, which is a little surprising. It's got usual buttons here for lock, unlock, and then you also have your pop open for the trunk and then panic function. There's remote start from the fob as well. If you push the lock button 3 times, it'll activate the remote start. But in general, it's a nice key. It also has their auto walk-away lock and unlock feature, which is a feature that I really love about BMWs. Now getting inside, the start stop button, as you can see, is right here in the center console. Push that, you can hear it has that interesting sound effect, which reminds you a lot of the i5, of course, their electric vehicle, because they use Hans Zimmer, of course, to do the electric motor sounds. And this is the beauty about this thing being a plug-in hybrid, is we are here in my garage in an enclosed space because it's cold and rainy outside, and I can have the car on because it's a plug-in hybrid. There's the gas engine doesn't come on. It's showing around 31 miles of all electric range. It almost has a full charge. And then this interior, as you can see, is pretty similar to the standard 5 Series, but there are a couple of key differences here. First of all, the steering wheel is unique to the M5. I love the M steering wheel here with the flat bottom design. It's got that racing stripe at the top. It's got your buttons here for M1 and M2, which is the customizable drive modes. It's got these carbon fiber paddle shifters. The wheel itself has a really nice leather, nice 9-3 grip. It's a thick rim, so it feels really good in your hands for aggressive driving. The wheel itself also has a power tilt telescoping function, so you can get really comfortable in your driving positions. My test car also has the driver assistance professional package, so it has like these little LED lights here to let you know when the system is active. The door panels, as you can see, has some pretty nice materials. You have this soft touch injection molded plastic. I love this interaction light bar here that kind of goes from the door panel all the way through the dash. There's also beautiful red leather here where this is nice and padded. Window controls are one touch for all 4, which is what you expect. Although I will say that the window controls are just made from a plastic switchgear. I was expecting BMW to put their metal switchgear that you find in their more expensive cars. In this lower portion area, it is hard touch plastic. So again, there is a little bit of cost cutting where I was expecting BMW to put more metal, more aluminum trim in here. But there are some nice aluminum speaker covers over the Bowers & Wilkins stereo, which sounds awesome if you guys are an audiophile. I believe it has 21 speakers in case you get tired of listening to that V8. In terms of the rest of the dash, you can see that beautiful interaction light bar has almost like this crystal effect. You can change the color to multiple different tones if you guys, or hues if you guys like. My test car for $300 also has the genuine carbon fiber on the dash. There's a soft touch injection molded plastic here on this upper portion. And then all M5s have the latest iDrive 8.5 software, which combines a 12.3-inch virtual display here and then a 14.9-inch display over here. Now this does have, of course, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's basically their latest 8.5 software where you can kind of go into the different widgets. You can show exactly what you want to adjust in this vehicle. There are so many different icons and menus you can go into. It's a little overwhelming. The climate controls are going to be located down here all the time. You can also push that. It'll bring up the separate climate functions if you guys want. Your heated and cooled seats are located in the screen over here. This is a little bit better versus when iDrive 8 first came out, but it still takes some getting used to. You can see the dash vents are interesting because this is actually where you can kind of regulate the airflow. You can either open and close it from this little slider, but then you can also manipulate the airflow from this little manual toggle here. So it's interesting because you can't really see the airflow, the actual vents moving, but it's electronically done inside the dash, which is different. It's a different design. You can see down here, there's a big wireless phone charging pad, just one on the driver's side. This area though can fit a smartphone. You have your cup holders here. You have lots of piano black here, which is where I would have preferred BMW to put aluminum or kind of a flat black material instead, because this shows fingerprints and scratches. I love the iDrive controller here, which is glass with the M logo. You can see this is your drive mode selector. Or I'm sorry, this is your gear selector here. The car has an 8-speed auto. If I push this forward, you can see that brings up reverse along with your full 360 camera. That's the chime that it makes when you're backing up. When it's in electric mode, it creates that fake sound to let people know that you're backing up. The camera quality and the trajectory looks fantastic. It has distance markers, it has automatic braking and stuff. You can also kind of do a perimeter scan around the vehicle, which is again, all features that you expect when you're paying this kind of money for a car. The technology in here is pretty nice, but again, that is part of a parking assistance package that my test car has, I believe, that's adding that extra feature. push that P button that goes into park, and then you push the toggle down to go into drive. Now over here you can see there are a couple of other buttons. This is your volume knob, but then this right here is where you control your drive modes for the vehicle. Now what's interesting about this car is you can see there's an M mode here. If you push that, you can change the display between either a road or a sport. If you go into the sport setting, you can see it changes the way the gauges look. It also changes the instrument lighting in here from the ambient lighting, which looks pretty cool. Again, if I go back into road, you can see that actually changes to more blue, less red versus the opposite. If you go into the setup here, this is where you can adjust everything here. There's so many ways you can customize the drive modes in this vehicle. It's a little overwhelming. Again, BMW, instead of giving us like a comfort, a sport, and like a sport plus, you basically have the M1 and M2, which you can customize here and configure and set to your liking. Or if you don't want to do that, you can go in here and change the drivetrain, the energy recovery, that's the engine regen braking, your chassis, which is the suspension, the steering, the brakes, the X-Drive all-wheel drive system, the exhaust sound, of course. That all is just done within this area here that you can customize to your liking. But again, it's a little overwhelming. If you go into the setup here, that basically lets you have access to that. That button turns off your stability control if you guys would like. There's a MDM mode, which is a sport mode. If you want to access the launch control, you have to go into that mode. So once you kind of get it all set up, it's relatively easy to use. You can see there's where you can adjust between hybrid, electric, or e-control. That's if you want to preserve the power in the battery pack to be used at a later time. So many ways to customize this, but once you're an owner of this car, I imagine it kind of becomes second nature, and you can kind of just set it and forget it and just push, you know, whatever setting you want from the M1 and M2. I would have preferred, however, if BMW just had like a separate comfort, sport, and like an eco mode. That would have just made things a little bit simpler. Now over here you can see there's a padded center console area with some nice leather. You can open this up, you can see it's not the deepest center console, it's a little shallow. You have a power outlet in there. If you're looking for your USB outlets, they're actually located here. You've got two USB-C charging ports, although they're a little bit hard to see, along with that wireless phone charging pad. But I really like the way this looks, aside from it getting, you know, fingerprints and smudges. Above me, you can see there's a nice Alcantara material, along with some LED map lighting. No sunroof, but without the sunroof, you do have a pretty good amount of headroom space. Again, if you don't get that carbon package, you'll have the sunroof added back in. So overall, the interior still feels pretty luxurious. It feels very special, although if you guys are hopping in and out of like an Audi RS6 or Mercedes product, you might notice the luxury in this vehicle isn't quite as nice. The materials aren't quite as fancy. It doesn't feel quite as opulent as some of its competitors, although BMW definitely got the sporty aspect down. The technology, however, I think is really good, and the build quality is also near the top of its class. But let's go ahead and hop into the backseat area. I can show you guys what that space is like. Now, as you can see, the M5 is a very big sedan. However, the back seat doesn't necessarily reflect that in terms of the space. Now, once I get back here, you can see my test car with the executive package does have some nice upgrades. First of all, you have around 36.9 inches of legroom back here. 36.9 is fine. This is not where my driving position is. The seat actually came back a little bit, but at 5'7", I have good foot space. I can get back here and cross my legs, but this seat back here takes up a lot of space because of the sports seats. In terms of the headroom, you can see at 5'7", I have a good solid 3 inches of additional headroom clearance. So that's good. Because of the taller roofline of this vehicle, you do get more headroom. I just expected it to have more rear seat legroom. With that executive package, you also get these manual retractable sunshades. There's also another sunshade over here. The door panel materials are also soft touch. I like the illuminated speakers here for the Bowers & Wilkins stereo. The door handles, you can see they're kind of aluminum accented. It's a really nice design. Padded leather over here, along with some additional storage here. The seats, as you can see, are also heated and just heated, however. They're not ventilated. I think at this price point, they should have been ventilated. You do have quad zone climate control via, you can adjust that from this screen right here, along with 2 more USBs, along with some outlets, or I'm sorry, some air vents here to get a little bit more comfortable. And then of course, if you have 2 people back here, you can fold down this armrest and gives you 2 cup holders. So overall, the back seat is certainly usable, but I personally would go for the Touring. The Touring should have similar specs in terms of the back seat space. However, I think that at this price point, they should have also included ventilated rear seats. That is an option that you cannot get in this car. So here we are back behind the wheel of the new BMW M5. Believe it or not, this is actually my first time getting an M5 for a full week to test for you guys. When I got my first taste of this vehicle out in South Carolina last November, I was very impressed with the overall package, especially since I didn't have much time with the car. This vehicle has gotten a lot of flack from the media and from enthusiasts for being a lot heavier, significantly heavier than the previous generation, but it does have, again, a plug-in hybrid powertrain. And even though this car is slower on paper than the old competition version, the CS, and the CS as well, this thing, as a base level M5, does have plenty of power. Now with a twin turbo V8 and a powerful electric motor, this thing now makes up to 717 horsepower. That is about 100 more versus the old competition version. Now again, the competition from the previous generation didn't have the electric assist. This vehicle also comes with all-wheel drive and their 8-speed ZF automatic. It is, again, BMW claims this is capable of hitting 60 in 3.4 seconds. Now, the last time I tested one, it did it in 3.2 seconds. So let's go ahead and see what we can get this time. The road is slightly damp, but let's go ahead and see what we can do. We have it in its M2 mode, which will engage the launch control. We're gonna go ahead and brake torque it. Oh! Wow, that was violent. 3.21 seconds there. Holy smokes. Oh, no. I expected it to struggle a little bit because we're on these summer tires and the road, it's damp-ish, but it's not like wet. It's around 53 degrees outside. So again, I noticed even when this vehicle, even when it's dry, it's struggling to put the power down because it has, I mean, 771 horsepower is a lot, or I'm sorry, 717 horsepower. This is not as much power as that Bentley Continental GT Speed that I tested recently, but this thing is still absolutely crazy. The Germans tend to be underrating their vehicles constantly whenever they, you know, specify a power output. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is making 717 at the wheels because this is a lot of power. This thing leaps off the line and it like struggles to put the power down, even though it is all-wheel drive. Let's try another run here. This time it's gonna be slightly more uphill, but let's see if we can get some traction. Ooh. 3.25 seconds there. That is literally one of the most violent launches where the front wheels are hopping. They're literally clawing at the dirt or at the asphalt for traction. It's kind of crazy how this thing literally is like, it feels like it's bouncing and like hopping as it struggles to put the power down. But 3.25 there, that's with it more going slightly uphill. I will try it one more time up ahead there. Again, I'm not really having the absolute best road conditions. You can see it is dry-ish. There are some damp spots on the pavement, but man, oh man, does this thing, oh, it's so violent. It's actually kind of scary how this thing launches, but at least the launch control works really well. I mean, that's kind of where BMWs have struggled in the past, is their launch controls were really inconsistent. You basically just put it in M2 and floor the brake and the accelerator. It says launch, active. As it builds up the revs and the boost a little bit, it just takes off because of the electric motor assist. It's just absolutely crazy. But the other thing about this vehicle is it comes standard with rear wheel steering. It also has their adaptive suspension. And this thing handles like it's on rails. I mean, for a car that weighs 5,400 pounds, the M5 really hides that weight quite nicely. In fact, I had a chance to even drive this vehicle out on a track when I was at BMW's testing or proving grounds, or I was in South Carolina at their factory and whatnot. And it's amazing to me how well this thing puts the power down. Now, granted, this is not going to be as, you know, nimble or as like track ready as an M3 or an M2, but for a big heavy sedan, again, this car weighs 5,400 pounds, but it really does hide its weight quite nicely. Again, for those of you who constantly complain and moan that this thing is so much heavier than the old one, I want to remind you guys that the AMG GT 4-door, the 63 SE Performance, is about the same weight. An Audi RS6 Avant is around 100 pounds lighter. And I expect the new AMG E63S to also be just over 5,000 pounds. So that's kind of just where the industry is going. This segment is just getting heavy because in order to make them faster, you have to add the electrification part, and they're just getting bigger, they're getting more luxurious. So it all comes at a penalty there, but at least with engineering, they've done a great job at hiding the weight, at masking it. So it's kind of crazy to me how well this thing, you know, how nimble it feels considering how big it is. Let's try another run here, this time level surface again. Oh! All right, there we go. That's the best run. 3.06 seconds there. Wow, that is intense. That is so intense. Oh, I could never get tired of that. It just really struggles to find grip. It's just, I can't wait for an even faster version of this car to eventually come out. Now, for an 8-speed automatic, a torque converter automatic, this thing shifts as brutally as a dual clutch, and it just has so much pull. It has so much like quickness in the shifts. It just feels like it's reading my mind and picking the right gear I want it to be. You have these paddles on the wheel that you want to control the gear shifters on your own, you can. Oh, and listen to that V8. It's got some nice bark and it has some nice crackles and pops from the exhaust, which I love. Oh, this is within everything in most aggressive setting, of course. Oh, oh my God, this thing is just absolutely crazy fast. And the other thing is, like, the M5 still has that dual personality. So even in this mode, it's firm. The ride is firm. The steering is just like lightning fast. The suspension has no body lean whatsoever. And it's great because you can literally just access it from the M2 or the M1 modes. Now in M1 mode, I'll switch it to that. It's not quite as harsh. The transmission goes into its medium setting. The suspension goes into its sport as opposed to its hardcore, like Sport Plus setting. The steering still feels heavy, not much in terms of feedback, but there's so much precision. The car feels incredible as it goes through the corners. That's where this vehicle feels like a full-on track car. It's amazing to me how this is not a competition or a CS, but it feels like it's ready to attack your favorite back roads or track, which is incredible. And then, of course, you can take it out of the M1 and M2 modes. That's the one thing about this car is to adjust the suspension and everything else, you have to go into this mode here and fiddle with everything here. And this is kind of where, if I want to go into its pure electric mode, I basically have to click on that, hit electric, and this is where the car gives you the pure electric mode up to 87 miles per hour, and BMW claims up to 27 miles of electric only range. Now in my actual testing, I did around 32 miles of pure electric range, which is pretty good. On a full charge, it showed 34. And what the interesting thing about this car in pure electric mode is, just like other BMW electric cars, it does have like a mode where it'll shift gears and create a fake sound. So take a listen. Now in this mode, the car only has around 194 horsepower, and that's not a lot. So it's not going to be quite as fast, obviously, in hybrid mode, but I can tootle around in town with this vehicle in pure EV mode. I like the noises it makes, the fake noises, because it adds some kind of drama. Even though it's not as, you know, burly as the V8, it's something, because I just had the Continental GT Speed, and in pure electric, that car makes absolutely no noise, but the V8 sounds so good that I just constantly didn't want to drive it in electric only mode. In this car, I actually don't mind because it gives me some kind of visceral sensation, and with the shifting that you get from the 8-speed, which is strange because that's the way this hybrid system functions, is the electric motor is paired, or it has to go through the 8-speed auto, so it still will shift, which is interesting. But if you put your foot down a little too much, it will wake up the internal combustion engine. So that's kind of where, you know, it does require the shifting. That's also where it's going to slow it down at times, because it has to do the shifting. And I just want to try another run here. Let me see if I can actually get to 60 in electric only mode. All right, so it hit 60 in about 9 seconds in pure EV mode. 9 seconds is not bad. Really, it's not that bad at all. And even though, again, you could put it into hybrid mode, it'll do it in literally 3 seconds all day long, maybe 3.5-ish without launch control, and around 3-ish when you guys have it on, you know, surfaces that are less than ideal, like myself. That is, again, plenty of speed for a vehicle like this. And then I also want to talk about the fuel economy, because this vehicle is rated at 12 in the city, 17 on the highway. That is not good. Now, I actually was able to beat those numbers. In my week's worth of testing, I averaged around 19 mpg in mixed driving. On the highway, this did around 24 mpg, which is not bad. Now, that's, of course, with the battery completely discharged. If you have it charged up with electricity and you have it in hybrid mode, like when you have it in hybrid mode right here, for example, it'll do around 35 to 40 mpge. That's what the trip computer is showing. Range for this vehicle was, you know, if you look at it on paper, is around 280 miles plus another 27 or 20, yeah, it was around 27 for pure electric mode. I was doing around 350 miles of full range, which is also honestly not horrible. It's not great, but again, you have like that 16-gallon fuel tank, so it's not going to get the best in terms of actual range, but it's better versus what the EPA says, which BMWs, they tend to be better than their ratings would suggest anyways. But again, for a vehicle that's this hardcore, it actually will ride really well when it's in its comfort setting or it's in its normal setting. But again, you push M2 mode and it wakes up the gas engine and it just becomes a hardcore track car, which is kind of the whole point of an M5, is it has that dual personalities, and that's essentially what you're paying for with a car like this. Now, as a driving enthusiast, a super fast sedan is always going to have a special place in my heart. So the BMW M5 is a vehicle that, for me personally, I've always lusted after. Even though this is the first time I've actually spent a full week with an M5, this vehicle essentially lived up to my expectations of a fast German sports sedan. And I have to say, with this all-new G90 generation, the company truly is pushing the envelope. I mean, even though on paper, some of you who have the previous generation M5 Competition or CS, you might notice that this car isn't quite as fast. However, BMW always tends to do things in batches. So of course, this is the first time we're seeing the new generation M5. I wouldn't be surprised to see the company do a more powerful version as we go on through the generations. And they're going to address, of course, the fact that this model isn't quite as fast as the fastest versions of the previous model. But as you guys saw, 0 to 60 happens in just over 3 seconds, which typical Germans, they always are a little conservative when they're talking about their acceleration numbers. But 3.06 for me is definitely kind of right up there where it needs to be, because the last AMG GT 4-door that I tested did it in 2.7 seconds. The last Audi RS6 Avant Performance that I tested also did it in around 3.1 seconds. So as the base level M5, this certainly has supercar levels of acceleration. And what also surprised me is when you have it in electric mode, it'll do 0 to 60 in about 9 seconds, which honestly is fast enough for just doing around town driving. And that's where the M5 kind of pushes the boundaries here on technology, because the plug-in hybrid aspect of this car is very controversial. I'm not surprised BMW did it. Porsche has been doing it for a while. Audi is probably going to do it for their next generation. Mercedes-AMG is going to start doing it as well. However, unlike the Mercedes-AMG GT 4-door that I had a few months ago, this actually has a usable amount of electric-only range, because as you guys saw, I got around 30 miles of electric-only range in my actual testing. Compare that to the 1 mile of electric-only range that Mercedes-AMG offers with the 4-door, which seems really silly to even call it a plug-in hybrid. So at least BMW was thinking a little bit more logically there by offering you a usable amount of range. The real-world range that I was getting in terms of a hybrid system was around 350 miles, which actually was pretty good considering the fact that M5s have never been known for being fuel efficient. But they really did improve that, of course, with this new generation. And at the same time, this is also a car that you could daily drive. When you put this car into comfort, it feels like a comfortable German luxury sedan that feels very tightly made. But then if you want to put it into its M2 mode, it feels like a hardcore sports car that still feels a little bit heavy around the corners, but can still surprisingly hold its own when you really start pushing this thing. So that's kind of the mission of an M5. It has a dual personality. And that's kind of the beauty about this car. The other thing that's beautiful about the latest M5 is if you look at its competitive set, this is actually kind of a bargain. I know a $100,000 plus super sedan like this is kind of a bargain, but base pricing for the M5 starts at around $119,500. If you guys want the wagon, it's only $2,000 more, so around $121,500. Keep in mind, an RS7 Performance is around $130,000, ditto for the RS6 Avant. We don't have pricing yet or the announcement of the latest E63 SE Performance from Mercedes-AMG. We should be getting that in the next year or so. But if you compare it to the 4-door plug-in hybrid that I had, the GT63 SE Performance, was around $195,000. It was also around 224 grand. So this model here, of course, with the executive package, the driver assistance professional package, the carbon package, the upcharge for the paint, totals at around 136 grand, which I know is a lot of money, but keep in mind, it has around $6,800 worth of options in carbon fiber and this matte color. Me personally, I would skip the matte color and the carbon fiber. I would go with the wagon and just add the executive package and the driver assistance package. That combination in Isle of Man green with the orange interior is around $128,000, which I think is actually a screaming deal, because that's where an RS6 Avant starts. And personally for me, I would rather have the M5 in the touring configuration, because again, it gives you that added practicality with the plug-in hybrid aspect and some actual real-world range, while being able to again smoke a lot of supercars when you pull up next to them at the light when you have this thing in M2 mode. Well, with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2025 BMW M5 sedan. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.